On my way to the end of the world, where the mechanic said that we would be able to create his great engine, I stopped by the Empire of Hands. We took a little bit of shore leave to relieve our stress and found, oddly enough, more stress. There was a skeleton that had long since been dead on the shore. A rusty locket was around its neck. Perhaps a survivor, perhaps a castaway, perhaps a doomed soul. Either way, I took the locket and headed into the jungle. I decided to visit my friend, the monkey foundling, the cute little blonde-haired girl who'd caused me oh so much trouble. There were apes guarding her, the kind who would steal your soul as to look at you. They acted almost like her surrogate parents, protecting her while she slept. When I approached, they at first blocked me, but then they seemed to recognize the locket I was wearing. Inside was a picture of a tiny baby with just a tiny hint of blonde hair and a red ribbon tied around her. It was my little foundling. The apes let me pass, and I left her to sleep. I could not take her. This was her home, after all. The adventuress I had helped gain access to the Empire of Hands was trying to raid the tomb of a monkey emperor. I helped her gain entry, with a little help from Mr. Dynamite. However, there was little else to do. I was quite wounded at this point from some of my affairs. Learning of the glory drained me, and so I decided to turn back for fear that I might lose myself. I finally got a chance to meet the Emperor of the Empire of Hands. Dressed in an elegant robe and wearing a mask, the Emperor Monkey was a sharp contrast to the great melee and madness that was the nobles of apes in the wild-wheeled court. The Emperor seemed to approve of me, and the seneschal who worked for him bid me help them with their zeppelin for a great exodus to the east. I do not know whether it was pity or honor, or perhaps equal parts both, but I agreed that I might be able to help them from time to time. When I finally left the Empire, my spirits were somewhat low. We had arrived in the Sea of Statues, where King Eater's castle dwells. I know not why we had to come here for this bizarre ritual, but the great veracity gnawed at the back of my mind as we prepared it. My crew pieced together an engine of the black ivory of Z-beasts that we had given the Stygian bones. And we laid the element of dawn, a very spark of the dawn machine, along with the sapphires of Port Carnelian, in the heart of the engine. The mechanic worked tirelessly, and the sage, he seemed to have a certain peace about him. I had only just saved him from wisdom before he climbed into the engine. I reached out to stop him, but he bade me to stop himself. He said this was what he wanted, that to create an engine with the force of the sun, you must be willing to make some sacrifices. He had to spark the flames burning. We closed the engine up and saw a great spurt of fire, and it was alive. The fulgent impeller was a magnificent engine of no equal. It helped us survive those last few days at Z, as we were able to skip across the water at insane speeds. However, before I took to port, just as I was leaving King Eater's castle, I got a very nice surprise. Stowed away in the pantry of all things, in a bed made of my clothes, was the little girl, the blonde-haired monkey foundling from the Empire of Hands. I would have told her that the Z was no place for a child, but my own son will be out there soon. What is a daughter on the Z? I took her in as one of my own. Perhaps she will learn. Perhaps she and my son would make a good match. Perhaps she will destroy us all. Who knows? I took some rest at Mangrove College in the Swallowing Isles to try and hopefully regain some strength. Our supplies were low, and I tried to search the wisp ways for more supplies and treasure, but my wounds were great, and I had to either turn back or risk death. In the mirrored city of Varchas, a fungal infection was spreading. It was terrifying at the best of times, as mushrooms grew in the lungs of those it infected. However, along my way home I managed to gain a temporary cure for my campaigner's soul sickness in Adam's Way. It would buy us the time we needed to hopefully create a real cure. There was a mutiny on deck. 2 dead and 1 prisoner. The Z is a cruel place. As I made my way back to London, I decided that it was time to treat my prisoner as she had treated others. My prisoner claimed to be a Z-beast of some kind, so I treated them in the same way and gave them over to the sisters on the Isle of Cats. I admit it was not kind, but it is just for the lives taken. They would give life to new things. I returned to London and finally parted ways with the one-eyed man with the very sharp knife. I had done enough service to him that he did not try to hurt me, but he said I should keep my mouth shut. As I said, I'm no fan of politics. So long as he did not meddle with my crew, I cared very little. To my surprise, the Admiralty had shut down. Dawn had taken to London. Those who worshipped the Dawn machine were now protecting it, or controlling it, depending on how you look at it. London was protected by both light and dark now, the light of the dawn and the dark of the Neath. When I returned home, Noctis and Marina were both safe, but I wonder, what future was there for the night, for my son, when the dawn was already upon us? I took a moment to introduce him to the monkey foundling. The girl had no name of her own, nor did she seem to want one. Whenever we tried to give her one, she would simply screech and howl. Either way, they got on well enough. Perhaps someday they would become friends. Either way, there are still more things I must do on the Z, still more stories to learn, and more places I must visit. I stayed with Noctis and Marina for the night, for on the morrow I would be going.